Hey everyone, welcome to Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy. Game of Thrones finally ended, and while not all fans enjoyed the final episode...
No! Not great, Bob!
The end did leave some unanswered questions that we would like to have answered. First off, spoilers for Game of Thrones. Every episode of Game of Thrones are just ahead. So first off, what was the voice that Varys heard in the flames? When Varys was a child, his genitals were severed by a sorcerer who threw them into a fire. In Meereen, when the Red Priestess shows up, she tells him,
"You heard a voice call out from the flames. Do you remember?"
So what did this voice say? What was the information that scared Varys so much that it motivated all of his life choices afterwards? The spider may have been a side character, but this is one lingering mystery that I was always curious about. Next, what's up with Azor Ahai? Azor Ahai, the prince
or princess
who was promised, who would come to end the long night with their sword Lightbringer. This prophecy drove Melisandre and fans wild with speculation for 7 seasons. Stannis was convinced that he was the chosen one, he even burned his daughter, while fans pointed out that Daenerys and Jon both matched certain aspects of the prophecy. But in the end, Arya grabbed the snitch and killed the Night King. So was she the princess who was promised, or was the prophecy just a red herring?
Prophecies are dangerous things.
And how about this one? What's going on with Daario Naharis and the Second Sons? Daario was left to run the Bay of Dragons at the end of season 6. So how's that going? Everything running okay? Does slavery return once word of Daenerys' death reaches Essos? Or, since Daario was in love with the Dragon Queen, does he sail west to kill Jon for revenge? I would love to see a spin-off about this. And I never really expected to hear from Daenerys' Essos booty call again, but I was surprised that the Reed family never re-entered the picture. Mira Reed and her late brother Jojen brought Bran north of the Wall and protected him for several seasons. Mira left him to reunite with her father, Howland Reed, who never appeared in the show's modern timeline. Howland is an important character in Westeros lore because he was the only other living person who could testify about Jon's true heritage. But the show ended up proving Jon's parentage with a diary and one of Bran's visions. I get the feeling that Howland will appear in the books along with his castle, Greywater Watch. And this keep is especially interesting because it's impossible to find. Legend says that it actually moves. It's a shame this story thread was abandoned by the show. And speaking of being abandoned, why are we just now seeing Edmure Tully? Why didn't this buck-toothed chode show up for the long night?
Please sit.
Sit down indeed, sir. I have a lot of questions about Jon. How many people know his true identity? Did Varys' messages even get out? Even though it doesn't really matter because the wheel is broken now, I still think it would be cool to know. And did Jon become Lord Commander of the Night's Watch at the end? And if so, did he abandon his post to leave with the Wildlings? Or is it now the Night Watch's job to watch over the Free Folk? I think that keeping the Night's Watch as an institution is a mistake. After a few hundred years, these broken bastards and rapists guarding a wall of ice are going to get bored and start killing the free folk for fun, and then the whole cycle of violence will start again. But speaking of the wall, is it going to melt? It was built by Bran the Builder and enchanted to keep the White Walkers out of Westeros, so its purpose is fulfilled. I doubt that the wall will last another few years, meaning a huge chunk of the north could soon be underwater. Thanks, Arya. And what's up with this horn that Sam found in season 2? Speaking of the north, will there be more Starks? According to the normal rules of succession, Sansa would need to have a child in wedlock to be the heir of Winterfell, but that child would have a different second name. Unless they rewrite the rules and give the kid whatever name they want. Given how Sansa tends to run things, I think that's more likely. And why did the North declare independence, but Dorne and the Iron Islands didn't? Dorne has always been semi-independent since their king never technically knelt to Aegon the Conqueror, and the Greyjoys have rebelled against the crown at least twice. Yara swore loyalty to Daenerys, not to Bran Stark.
I swore to follow Daenerys Targaryen.
I think that about 5 minutes after the credits ended, the 6 kingdoms became 4. And there are still a lot of questions hanging over the realm. We see some of the Unsullied sailing for Noth, but is this where they're all headed? I'd like to imagine that they are sailing around the world liberating other slaves. But the Dothraki, well, they're another story. Their entire culture is built on burning, raping, and slaving. They have no place in Westeros, so we can assume that they boarded the Iron Horses and returned to their home across the poisoned water. But at one point, Tyrion did offer them lands in the Reach, so did they take him up on that offer? Are there hordes of wild Dothraki roaming Westeros? And is the kingdom still in debt to the Iron Bank? Westeros has been plagued with crippling debt for decades.
Are you telling me the crown is 3 million in debt?
I'm telling you the crown is 6 million in debt.
Cersei got a payday loan from the Highgarden loot and squared everything up before going back into debt to rent the Golden Company. How will the 5.5 Kingdoms economy ever recover? And I know that the taxation of trade routes isn't the most exciting aspect of sci-fi fantasy, but this kind of stuff is important, you guys. Here's another question. Is Ellaria Sand still alive? Well, I assume she was crushed when the Red Keep collapsed, but I guess we'll never know. And What about King Bran the Broken? How long has he known that he would be king? Has he always been able to see the future and he just had a hard time sorting out the information? And if that's the case, was he plotting and planning this all along? Is Bran the secret villain of the show? And is the new throne just his wheelchair, or will they have someone pick him up and place him in a new throne? And if it is his wheelchair, does that mean that every monarch gets to pick their own seat? If so, this one would be mine. And I have so many questions about dragons. Where did Drogon take Daenerys? Are there other dragons east of Essos? I hope so. I had a theory for a while that Rhaegal was a girl, and the series would end with a clutch of dragon eggs hatching somewhere in the north. Maybe that is going to happen. Are there dragon eggs in the north? And was Daenerys pregnant when she died? There were a lot of hints that maybe Jon had the magic seed to reverse the witch's curse on her.
I can't have children.
Who told you that?
The witch who murdered my husband.
Has it occurred to you she might not have been a reliable source of information?
This one's bothered me for a while, and maybe you can explain it in the comments. Why did Jack and Hagar let Arya go? Her entire training was about forgetting her identity and becoming no one. Then she asserts her true name and he just lets her go? I've never understood if she completed her training or if this was a Luke in the Empire Strikes Back situation where she abandoned the program to go help her loved ones. And finally, what's the end of Tyrion's joke?
I once brought a jackass and a honeycomb into a brothel.
Not since The Breakfast Club has an unspoken punchline so taunted pop culture.
Naked lady says.
But what are your unanswered questions from Game of Thrones? Let me know in the comments below. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.